Coming up in this edition of Retro Newsround, a selection of retro video games for Halloween, a superb looking Addams Family Thing Lego set, and some amazing looking Atari wristwatches. As we're now in the lead up to Halloween 2025, this is the first of two spooky themed modern retro games I'll be sharing with you in this video. Halloween 1985 is an arcade platform game from Spoonbox Studios in which you take control of the pumpkin-headed Pumpkman. A vampire, a werewolf, a mummy, a witch and a clown have all teamed up and stolen the pumpkins from Pumpkinman's shop. Playing as the hero, you have to hop around each level and retrieve all the pumpkins without being caught by the villain or their minions. Along the way there are optional challenges like collecting the pumpkins in a specific order or disabling the enemies by using objects in the level, and there's also a boss battle to win at the end of each level. The game will be releasing on the 29th of October, but until then we can try out the free demo that's currently available on Steam for PC. We get to experience the Witch's Forest level, and as you can see here, as well as collecting the pumpkins and avoiding the enemies, we can also defeat the witch by tipping the cauldrons and knocking her out. Hit her 3 times and she'll lose her powers and flee the level. Halloween 1985 will be available for PlayStation, Xbox, Switch and PC platforms for £4.99. We can always rely on the Lego company to release new seasonal themed kits for us big kids to play with, and Halloween is no exception, with this smashing looking replica of Thing's apartment from the Addams Family's Wednesday TV show. One of the standout characters, Thing, got his own apartment in the recent Netflix show, built by Wednesday's roommates out of an old storage chest, and this Lego kit replicates that with a chest that opens to reveal his living quarters, complete with a plethora of accessories including 2 figures of Thing and Wednesday's roommate Enid. The lid also lifts off for storage of the accessories. Thing's apartment is available now from the Lego website for £74.99, and there's also a video on there to give you an idea of what to expect from the kit. The second of 2 spooky themed modern retro games in this video is an open world horror action RPG game involving slashing and blasting enemies in blood-soaked combat. In Madhouse, you take the role of Butch in a quest for revenge in search of his wife's killer. As well as the combat, you'll be exploring locations including graveyards, streets and houses, looking for keys to open doors, upgrading your weapons and abilities, and hunting for clues as the story progresses, and there's a 4-player local and online versus mode as well. It's a nicely balanced mix of action and exploration that will have you fighting and exploring to discover new areas and reveal new chapters of the story. The game's been produced by indie developer Paul Hubbins, who helped me out with some toy images for one of my videos back in May 2024, so I was keen to share his game with you, not just for that reason, but because it's actually a superb retro RPG game that I have no qualms about recommending. Madhouse is currently available on Steam for PC, priced at £4.29, and Paul hopes to eventually release the game on consoles as well, but there are no concrete plans as yet. There's a free demo to try out on Steam, so if you're a PC gamer, it's definitely worth giving this a shot. In a throwback to TV from the year 2000, any fans out there of Malcolm in the Middle will be pleased to hear that a new TV show starring the same characters will soon be coming to our screens. Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair, will be hitting our screens just in time for Christmas. Bryan Cranston and Jane Kaczmarek are returning as the mum and dad, as well as Frankie Muniz as Malcolm himself, in a story that revolves around Malcolm and his daughter being thrown into family chaos during Lois and Hal's 40th wedding anniversary. The actors who played Malcolm's brothers, Francis and Reese, are also returning. However, his youngest brother Dewey has been recast with a different actor. The original show was a solid favourite for many of us back in the early 2000s, so seeing how those beloved characters have been getting on later in life should be a real blast. Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair, is scheduled to release on Disney Plus in December this year, over 4 30-minute episodes. Sony's PlayStation console released worldwide in 1995, and I can very clearly remember the impact it had on the home gaming scene. With its arcade quality 3D graphics and CD quality sound, it pretty much redefined the home console gaming market. Well, it's now been 30 years since this powerhouse was released, and to celebrate this anniversary, Limited Run Games are releasing this fabulous looking commemorative hardcover book. 30, a PlayStation retrospective, is a 180-page photo essay tribute to the original PlayStation, packed with commentary about the system's biggest and most interesting games, and covering the console's origins, launch, and rise to greatness. It's available to pre-order now from the limited run website for approximately £35, including shipping and taxes from the US. In other LEGO news, back in the third edition of Retro Newsround, we looked at the LEGO Game Boy and commented on how it's not a powered working Game Boy and doesn't play actual games. Well, I stand corrected, as a Melbourne, Australia-based small business owner going by the name of Natalie the Nerd has made a circuit board that fits inside the LEGO Game Boy and turns it into a fully functioning console. Natalie sells and modifies retro gaming handhelds for a living, and also sells parts to enable people to work on their own projects, so it's very likely that once she's worked out all the kinks, there will be something available on her shop website to allow the rest of us mortals to make the same modification to our own LEGO Game Boy kits. The project is featured in full detail on her website, so if you're interested in the technicalities, you can check out all the details there for yourself at blog.nataliethenerd.com. As I promised in the previous edition of Retro Newsround, here's a look at another retro computer magazine that takes us back to the days of 8-bit home computers. Crash magazine was a publication for ZX Spectrum owners that was on shop shelves between 1984 and 1991, and to this day holds a lot of nostalgia for those of us who used to read those magazines religiously for all the latest gaming news. Fusion Retro Books have been publishing an updated version of Crash magazine for quite a few years, and they're currently up to issue number 29. Some of the writers from the original magazine are involved with this new version, which brings us reviews of Spectrum games old and new, articles, letters and features, and retrospectives on some of the material from the original magazine to reminisce over. Fusion Retro also produce an array of other magazines, including Zap 64 for Commodore 64, Zap Amiga, Amtix CPC for Amstrad, Next magazine for the newer ZX Spectrum Next, and Fusion magazine, which covers more general retro subjects. The magazines, including Crash, are priced at $4.99 for physical copies, and there are also digital downloads available, subscription options, and if you use the Readly magazine app, digital copies of Fusion Retro's magazines can also be found on there. And finally, one for the retro gaming fans out there for whom money is no object, and that's why I stuck this in the "and finally" section. The Nubeo watch company, who produce high-grade watches with pop culture themes like Star Trek and NASA, for example, have produced a stunningly beautiful and classy range of watches based on Space Invaders and Atari asteroids. I'll let you know the prices after we've admired them here together. A few examples include the Invaders Abyss, Fireball Fury, Laser Green, Plasma Pumpkin, and Cosmic Shadow. And as you continue to mull over how classy these watches all look, I'll show you a rundown of their webpage showing all the watches available in this range, including the prices. Yes folks, you can own your very own Nubeo retro gaming watch for prices that range from £518 down to as little as £172, and if you think that's a little on the affordable side, do bear in mind that the £172 special edition watches have been reduced from £1,499, although these are now being shown as sold out, so I guess we've all missed the boat there. If you're feeling flush this week, you can browse the full collection of Nubeo watches, including these retro gaming ones, at nubeowatches.com. And that brings us to the end of this 6th edition of Retro Newsround, so until the next one, thank you for liking and subscribing, and of course thank you all for watching Retrospectives.